What? What do you want? I'm about to start filming. Do you want to come say hi to the internet? Come here. Say hi to everybody. Say hello, internet. Say hello. Okay, I got to do this thing. I got to tell everybody what an absolute shit show this is. I only bought this because of you. You were like, oh, I need more space, otherwise I throw up in the car. So I got you this, and now it's broken. Say hello to everybody. Say hello. All right. Let me do the thing, okay? Okay, but let me do this. I gotta talk. So all of my vehicles are breaking. The Acti is in the shop getting completely overhauled. The Golf is misfiring and just doesn't even want to drive anymore. And then this thing has just thrown a check engine light, which I just found out could cost me between $10,000 and $20,000 to fix. What's up guys, welcome back to another episode. So yeah, it's all fun and games owning a bunch of vehicles until they decide to break on you, especially when it happens all at once. And especially when it happens right as you're moving your entire life to another state. If you haven't seen the last video, I have now officially left California and I am living here in Arizona. And it was actually back in California where my issues with the Megacab started. Ever since I've had the truck, it would randomly throw a P2609 check engine light for the air intake heater. So I took it to the dealership and they fixed it. But 6 months later, it came back. So given that it didn't affect how the truck drove, I just ignored it. And to give you some context, it's basically a system that preheats the air that goes into the engine so that when you try and start it in cold weather, it starts easier. Now, obviously, I lived in a place where it very rarely dipped below 70 degrees, and so it wasn't a problem for me, and that's why I was happy to ignore it. But fast forward to a couple of months ago, and the truck needed to be smogged, which is like an MOT in the UK. The problem was the check engine light that I had meant that it wouldn't pass a smog check, and therefore I couldn't get my new registration, which is like road tax in the UK, until that was fixed. So I took it to another dealer, in fact the same place that I bought the truck from, and they messed me around so much that I decided that I just wasn't happy taking it back to them. And by this time, it was a week away from me moving to Arizona, where you don't need to smog to register your vehicle. So my problem was solved, or so I thought. To add insult to injury, I actually did pay the DMV in California over $1,000 for my registration because I wanted to make sure that even though I hadn't managed to fix it and get it smogged, I was at least paid up, and so I could prove that I wasn't just trying to drive around with expired tags if I did get pulled over, which I actually did one time. But after all the dicking around from the dealership, I actually never got the issue fixed before moving here, and so that $1,000 was all for nothing. In trying to figure out how on earth to fix this issue, I came across a series of videos from a company called Banks Power, and they showed a terrifying scenario in which part of the air intake heater system, which is what I'm having the issue with, actually breaks off and then causes a catastrophic engine failure. And they even went as far as to say in the videos that if you have the issue, immediately stop driving and get the car towed or the truck towed to a mechanic to get it fixed. Meanwhile, numbnuts over here had been driving it with the check engine light on for 15,000 miles. So anyway, I decided to give Banks a call and see what my options were to resolve the issue with their aftermarket parts, because I had lost complete faith in the dealerships, and thankfully it turns out that they have a solution that not only fixes the issue and prevents it from ever happening again, but it actually makes the truck better to drive as well. Now, if you guys know one of my favorite sayings, it is if some is good, more is better. And so I asked Jay at Banks if they might have any other goodies that the Megacab might benefit from. To which he laughed and said, yeah, you could say that. Well, it's only February, but Christmas has come early, and here are all of the parts that we are going to be installing on the truck. Jay, can you walk me through what all of this is? It all looks very shiny and very nice, but can you just give us a brief overview on what this is going to do for me and for the Megacab?
Happy to. So Gail Banks, who runs this company, he's turning 82 this year. Sorry, I didn't want to spoil that for everyone, but his...
Him like that on camera?
Yeah.
Wow!
Incoming ball detected.
He started this company when he was 14. He's been doing this for like 65 plus years. And he is a hot rodder from back in the day. So everything is about performance. So let's start at the tip of the truck and go to the tail. Got our Ram air intake right here. As you will see, it has a massive filter. So it has the most surface area of any filter on the market. This means that you're gonna go the most miles without cleaning or replacing the filter. We've made sure that we have reduced all of the restrictions in the air intake system. We've removed any constraining point where you would lose pressure into the intake system. We're basically using Mother Nature as free turbocharging. And then we'll go up into the Monster Ram. The Monster Ram is the world's only 50-state emissions compliant intake elbow. We have removed all the restrictions of the factory intake elbow. And when you see the factory one, you'll see exactly why. Look at this orifice right here. It's massive and it's unrestricted. Same with the inlet as well. So the air is coming this way. It's going in right here, and it's going into your intake manifold here. By the way, we also include a fuel line. There are some competitors in the market. They have a huge dent taking out right here because there's a fuel line that passes right by here. We give you a new #1 fuel line, and we hop up and over the Monster Ram. And it's made by the same company that makes the factory fuel lines. So we made sure that we've removed, again, every restriction that we can. So for freer flowing air, trying to keep the air density as high as possible. You want cold, dense air going into your cylinder. More cold, dense air, the more power you'll make. And we go through this high flow billet intake plate. Now this is where the factory unit has a coil in here that does this back and forth. And there's a bolt that holds it all together. And that bolt can deteriorate and fall down into the manifold. And because your engine sits at a 2-degree rake backwards, that bolt falls off and walks down to cylinder #6 and falls in through the valve, into the intake valve, and goes into cylinder #6 and destroys engines. So if you look up the P2609 grid heater bolt failure on Google or YouTube, or you just type in grid heater bolt failure, you'll see videos and stories and all, like tons of carnage because of this. We eliminate this whole section and we replace this factory grid heater with a coil style heater that is tried and true and been used in automotive diesel applications for 15, 20 years. And this guy threads in right here into the top, right into the Monster Ram. And if you ever want to check on it, anybody with a crescent wrench can take it out and look at it and inspect it. One little tiny bolt. I mean, it's this big. I'm gonna put it in your hand later. You're gonna see it over in the install bay, and you're gonna see one that has fallen apart. In many cases, and guys were saying, oh, this only happens in cold climates where you're using the grid heater all the time, where this circuit is being energized, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, and the bolt deteriorates. A lot of our failures are in the Southwest, where those grid heaters, the factory grid heater, is not being used. So it's deteriorating on its own. It's melting. It's literally stretching like a stalactite in a cave. It's stretching, stretching, and eventually it falls off on its own.
Wow.
So we just eliminate it completely.
And I live in Southern California, where it is no colder than most of the time. 65 is about the coldest I think I've seen it, you know, during the daytimes where I live, and it failed on my truck. So it's not just people that live in the middle of Montana where it's like below freezing. The best part about it is that this is carb legal, so
Yes.
you can just put this on, you don't have to go to the dealership. This fixes the issue and prevents it from ever happening again.
That's
because
correct.
you get rid of that stupid, not only do you get rid of the stupid restrictive grid heater and replace it with this, but also you eliminate that bolt that is going to fall down and cause you all of the issues.
Exactly. It's a happy accident that we solved that. We did this for performance reasons, and we found out later that we were solving this huge issue. This was on the market for like 6-8 months. And we were celebrating the fact that it was the only 50-state emissions compliant intake elbow for the Ram. And then these failures started happening in the marketplace, and we had the solution. This guy, when it goes bad and it melts, that's the engine killer. It's $10,000 for a rebuild, or it's 20 grand for a brand new engine.
And how much is this?
This is just under $1,000 plus install.
And you're getting better performance.
You get better throttle response, and yeah, you've got insurance.
Worth it to me.
So then as we're going through, we've got the exhaust pipe here. Now there's a huge exhaust. It's a 5-inch mandrel bent check this out. Let me move this stuff. right? Let me put my arm in it. Right?
So stupid.
I still got grease in it from the mandrel.
I think I've officially become an American. I now have the diesel truck with the exhaust pipe that
You
is
got yourself a
almost
big ass exhaust, boy.
almost big enough for me to get my entire head
Hold
in.
on, I gotta wipe my hand. Hold on.
Okay.
So this is the patented Sidekick exhaust tip. It has 2 patents, a design and utility patent, and it's all about the shape. Why is a rocket nozzle shaped the way it is? It's the same reason we shaped this nozzle. It actually siphons exhaust out at highway speeds. So this angle right here will sit parallel to your body. And have you ever blown over a Coke bottle and it whistles?
Yeah.
You're actually pulling air out of the Coke bottle, right? It's making that noise.
Okay.
Imagine you're doing the same thing without the noise. Blowing across this, you're actually siphoning exhaust gas out. Because we're at a 5-inch diameter all the way through, we've reduced the back pressure from your diesel particulate filter to the very end of the truck. That's like a 3 psi reduction, which ends up being a 9 psi reduction at the head of the piston thanks to turbo expansion ratio. What does that all mean? If you've ever sat in a Denny's, right? We have Denny's in America here. Well, are we talking to people in the UK as well?
I mean, there's some from the UK,
Okay,
yeah.
whatever. You're sitting at a restaurant, you put a straw in your mouth. You put swimmer's clips on your nose and you put a straw in your mouth. And try breathe through a straw. You can just barely breathe through it, right?
Wait, that's what Americans do at Denny's?
So imagine you had swimmer's clips on your nose and you put a straw in your mouth. Exactly.
Yeah.
And you try and breathe through it. You can just barely breathe through it.
Yeah.
Now put a second length of straw in it, okay?
Yeah.
Now you can't breathe. Put a third, now you can't breathe. Right? You can't overcome the back pressure in the straw. What if that straw was now a piece of garden hose an inch around? I can breathe, can't I?
Yeah.
Why? Going to a larger diameter effectively shortens the length. That is what we've done with this 5-inch exhaust. We've made it easier for your crankshaft via the pistons to exhaust the, to push the exhaust gas out during the exhaust stroke.
From a driving perspective, what is that going to give me? Better throttle response?
Yes.
Less turbo back pressure?
Yes.
Better spool up?
Better spool up. So the less work that the turbine has to do, the less work that the compressor has to do because they're on a on a shaft together, spinning at the same speed. So you've increased the efficiency of the engine.
And you've increased the longevity.
No, look, we're not selling this. You're not going to gain 50 horsepower. Like that's not the deal.
For sure.
But it's all about efficiency.
Yeah.
Chipping away at little parts all over the engine. Like Ram did a pretty good job, right? As did GM and Ford. They do a pretty good job. We're there picking up all the table scraps.
Yep.
That's what we're
sure.
doing. So we're getting 2 horsepower here, 4 horsepower here, 11 horsepower here, a couple PSI here, a couple PSI there. When you're all said and done, you're up maybe double-digit horsepower, and you're down a few PSI of back pressure, which is fuel economy. Now we get into like temperatures. So this is the patented Ram Air rear differential cover. As you'll look closely, not only do you notice it's got really long, thin fins like the back of a old school home stereo amplifier. You see these scoops right here?
Yep.
These direct cold air, road air, up through these long, thin fins right here.
Yeah, I see. So it scoops it up.
Exactly. Now, I know
this is the back face. So if we look at the diff down there on that truck,
that's correct.
This is the back face.
Exactly. If you look at some high performance rear differentials of like BMWs, M series, things like that, they've got fins that hang down below the differential, and that's to cool the oil that's inside.
Yep.
This whole operation here, the point of this is to cool the fluid that is racing around inside. When you heat it up, you cool it down, you heat it up, you boil it, you destroy the viscosity, right? You kill its shear strength. So we're cooling it 4 times better with these Ram Air scoops and these long, thin fins. So this is in the sump where the oil is sitting. This transfers the heat to the outside where it can be rejected faster. We also have the ring gear raceway, right? So the oil is going up and over smoothly. And we have these directional fluid guides that take it out to the axle tubes right here. If you've seen the guys that have these big flat back covers, they're on the road. Mag High Tech, ATS, PPE. There's all these. I'm saying.
You're gonna tell the companies?
I'm name dropping.
Whoa.
We tested them all. If you go to Bank's YouTube channel, you'll see a 14-episode YouTube series that has millions of views. We have flat back covers. We have clear covers so you can see what's happening inside. It's pretty wild what is actually happening in the rear differential. When we put the flat back guys on here who claimed better cooling because we have a few more quarts of oil, what we found is that the oil on its return visit around, think of like a paddle, those ships, like a paddle wheel ship,
Yep.
what do they call it? You know, when they're taking the oil back around this way, they're shooting the oil at a flat surface. It's basically a fire hose against a brick wall. It turns the foam like a waterfall. You've ever seen why is the water white when it hits the rocks? Because there's air in it. So there's air in the oil when it's being aerated horribly when it hits the surface.
Great for
because
wine,
it's
terrible
flat.
for oil.
Exactly.
Okay, got it,
Right?
got it.
You don't want cake batter. You want oil. Oil is the only thing that lubricates the ring and pinion interface, not air.
Yep.
So we have a curved surface. We honored the curvature of your stock cover, I should say. The flat guys are bad. They're just destroying the oil, and we've proven that. So we've cured everything, and we also give you a little sight glass that goes in here, a little window, so you can
nice.
you just reach, you look down, and you can, oh look, my oil's still clean. It's still, I've got the right level. We give you a fill port right on the top. It's angled for easy access, and we give you a drain plug that's located at the very bottom, so you get out every last drop of dirty gear lube. And we've even given you a sensor port right here, so if you wanted to put a 1/8 NPT sensor, you could measure the temperature and see that we've actually done our job. And this guy right here is our iDash data monster. This is how you will monitor everything that RAM does not show you on your dashboard. And you will also be able to read and clear codes. You can see everything from exhaust gas temperature to def level to distance between your DPF regens. You can read and clear codes, on and on and on and on. And it has a lot of patented features as well, which I'll show you once we get in the truck.
Okay.
And this is also your master control for your pedal monster, this guy right here. This is your throttle controller. I'm sure many of you have heard of Pedal Commander. The reason this exists today, the pedal monster, is because of Pedal Commander. We solved all the ills that Pedal Commander faced with this guy right here. If you've owned a Pedal Commander, many of you have suffered from check engine lights, dead pedal, bizarre, it lights up your dashboard, and maybe you've had some other brands that have done the same thing, the cheap Chinese ones you see on Facebook. This one doesn't have these issues. This guy has relays in it that set it back to stock if any problem occurs. It is also the only throttle controller that is connected via OBD, this guy right here. It knows what vehicle it's in, your speed, your gear, make, model, everything. So when you put it back into reverse, it sets you back to stock throttle response, not like Pedal Commander. In Pedal Commander, you haul ass backwards. It has no idea what speed or gear you're in.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
you jerk backwards and you jackknife your trailer, or you end up with your truck and your boat unqualified captain on Instagram when you sunk your truck, right? It is OBD. OBD plugs in here. All of the Banks devices share a single OBD connection, and so they're all sharing data. But again, getting back to what is this for? In your RAM, you have it's a big turbo under the hood, and it takes a long time to spool. We can get it there faster. We can get rid of a lot of that dead pedal that you feel.
Dude,
when
that's
you're
the
trying
worst
to pass
thing
people.
about that truck,
I know, yeah.
is that like you put your foot down, and then you wait for a second, and then you might wait for a little bit longer, and then it'll go. And
Yep.
it's so annoying.
This is going to reduce a lot of that.
Cool.
It doesn't solve it completely,
Right.
It's not a miracle, but it does get rid of a tremendous amount, and we'll go around the block.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, you'll give me your honest opinion.
Of course.
Yeah.
Always.
This has basically relegated all the other throttle controllers to the trash can. I'm not joking. It is significant because it is the only one with active safety relays, like I said, that puts you back to stock.
Yep.
You could reach down, yank the power out of this at 60 miles an hour, keep driving, stock.
All right. Well, I guess we should probably go and get all of this over to the tech and get this installed on the Megacab.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go. If you are not a techie person and you're mostly here to watch videos of diesel, then we're going to explain what these things do in under 30 seconds. Are you ready?
Oh, geez.
Here's the counter. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, RAM air intake. This gets the cold, dense air into the truck. It passes through the monster RAM. We remove all the restrictions so you get better throttle response. Your air is heated through this little coil. This solves grid heater bolt failure for you RAM owners.
That's why I'm here, because of that issue that I had to go to the dealership with. This fixes it. This is the only thing I needed, but somehow I got talked into putting all of this stuff on the truck. That doesn't count on the countdown, by the way, because I took over. Back to you.
Air flows through this hole right here. We replace a big ugly grid heater with this guy. This is your exhaust tip to a massive 5-inch exhaust system.
Which is right here, by the way.
Then you have the patented RAM air rear differential cover that has nifty scoops on the back that channel cold air up through the fins, keeping your rear diff temps really low.
So when I'm towing stuff, that means that it's gonna make my oil last longer in the diff, and it's gonna make the diff last longer and give me less trips to the mechanic.
And you've got master control right here. This is the iDash. We'll show you all about this later. This is your Pedal Monster throttle controller and gets rid of the turbo lag. Right now, it takes you, well, you can grow a beard faster than you get to 60 miles an hour. This is gonna help.
And that's it.
You said 30 seconds.
That was brilliant. Well done. All right, now we've got to get all this stuff on the truck. So if you watch the full version, I hope you're informed. If you just watch that short version, I just think that was better. I enjoyed that short one. All right, cool. Let's go put this stuff on the truck. Diesel. Should we see if we can get you some upgrades? Turn you into turbo diesel?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. Tell him, bro.
Yeah. I'm staring in the mirror at the only one I trust. Been down on my luck, so when you see me now I'm up. I'm fresh up out that mud, I'm a diamond in the rough, so when you see me shining now.
So I think he's getting ready to put the exhaust on now. I just want to show you a comparison of the exhaust that's coming off versus the exhaust that's going on. This is the stock exhaust that is coming off. This is a 4-inch. My pipe is about to get even girthier. So this is what will be going on. Now this exhaust is a DPF back system, so it's still all 50 states CARB compliant or EPA compliant. It's not going to mess with any of that. You can still smog your truck, do all that stuff. None of the stuff that I'm doing to this truck is going to make it illegal in any way, and that is the goal, because I want to be able to run this thing without having to worry about getting smogs or anything like that, or if I do ever come to sell it, I don't want to have to worry about having to get rid of it with a bunch of aftermarket parts on that aren't for road use. But yeah, I'm excited to see how it looks because the tip is huge. Yeah, we're getting a bit of an upgrade here, ladies and gentlemen.
Staring in the mirror at the only one I trust. Been down on my luck, so when you see me now I'm up. I'm fresh up out that mud, I'm a diamond in the rough, so when you see me shining now, know it's anything but luck. I'm looking in the mirror at the only one I'm fuck.
Look at the size of my big black tip. Oh, he's tugging on it too. Can I help you, sir? Can I help you? So the Ram is in for a treat today because not only is it getting all of the Banks Power stuff, but yesterday I installed these Optima yellow top batteries. These things are so much better than the flooded lead batteries that I had in it. These are AGM batteries. They're going to last longer, especially in the heat. Optima actually tested these on mini cabs in Las Vegas where these things are sat idling in 120 degree temperatures to make sure that they were good in all conditions. And so knowing that this thing was coming in here for all of this, I decided to go for the full upgrade so that under the hood, it is going to look mwah, chef's kiss by the end of all of this. But first things first, let's get this Monster Air RAM intake, Monster RAM Air intake, Monster Ram. Let's get the Monster Air RAM intake, however you say it, in this thing. And then we can talk about the rest.
When you see me shining now, know it's anything but luck. It's anything but luck now.
So as nice as it can't speak. So as nice as all of this stuff is, the reason that I'm here is because of that issue that I had with that fault code, which then stopped me from smogging the truck. And so what we have here is the actual problem illustrated in a much, much worse condition than mine. So luckily, it seems as though mine isn't at this level, but this is to show you just how bad it can get.
This is the factory grid heater. So your intake air flows through this grid right here.
Yep.
And this energizes, it gets hot, right?
Okay.
This is a heating element. And the 12-volt lead passes right through this piece of plastic and goes through the bottom.
Okay.
Electricity comes through here and goes to the grid.
Yep.
All right. Now, the first sign of a failure would be where you reach down and you wiggle this. And then when you flip it over, this little nut would be sitting right there.
That's a nut?
Can you see that? That is a screw and a nut.
It looks
That's
like a piece of molten lava.
Exactly, and this one has melted and fallen off.
No shit. So that would end up going down into your
Exactly.
engine.
This is sitting upside down like this.
Okay.
And it falls off and then rolls downhill, and this makes its way under the intake valve and goes into cylinder number 6, which is closest to your firewall.
Oh my
right? It's just going with gravity, rolling down like a little marble, and it's just small enough to get into your intake valve and get crunched up. And you can see what happened here. You can see all the material that's still left here. And then this has, that's the top of the stud. So this used to be connected to that.
That right there is $10,000.
Just to repair the cylinder, the piston, the head, $10,000. A lot of guys just scrap the engine and buy a new one. That's 20. That's the difference right there.
So all of this goes and is replaced by that one little...
By the coil heater that sits vertically.
Okay.
Correct.
And it looks so much nicer.
And you can also tell that like the air has to pass through this. There's all sorts of turbulence, right? Right here, free flowing straight through.
So nothing goes right here. This is just all clean.
Straight open, right to the manifold.
Very cool.
Yep.
Why does it do this? Is this just because this is taking way too much current for the size of the bolt?
Yes. I mean, I have a drawer full of these, failed ones.
Yeah.
And luckily, these are the ones that we have saved. And in many cases, the customer will come to us and Robert will pull it out and just take his fingers and snap it off. So it was just days or weeks away from falling in. Wow. We've saved a lot of guys a lot of money. It's destruction. Yeah, it really messes things up.
What do I need to jiggle to test to see if there's an issue with this?
So that stud that is pointing up right there on the top of the plastic.
This one?
Right there, just jiggle that. Give it a good tug. It looks sturdy.
Yeah, I mean, that's not moving. Okay, so that's good. That's what you want to see.
That's what you want to see. Yeah, you know that the nut and bolt on the bottom are still tight, so you may be out of the weeds.
Okay, and this is something that you can get to, even if you haven't removed all of this, you can still sort of get your fingers down there onto this and give it a tug. Even just, you know, open the hood.
Any RAM, you can reach over and find that 12-volt lead. Usually there's a thick wire coming out of it. You can grab the base of the wire and move that around.
Okay.
And yeah, that I recommend every oil change, just giving that a wiggle. And if it moves, flatbed your truck to a mechanic. How many trucks, Robert, flatbedded here? A dozen or so? Yeah. Guys, like, that is, it wiggles all over the place. Wow. Do not drive it. Like, I mean, if that falls in, all it takes is one revolution of that, you know, of that piston coming up and crashing into the head with that bolt in there, and it's
game over.
Game over.
Well, I'm glad that my nuts weren't loose, but give yours a wiggle. Regularly check your nuts is the message from Banks Power.
I don't know that that's the official message. No.
Take a look at the difference in where the air goes in. So this is where the air is being sucked in. This obviously is all black from the soot, but yeah, I mean, you can get your whole hand in there. This one, I mean, we've still got throttle body on there, but this one...
I can't even put my fingers in this one right here.
Yeah, I mean, that is crazy. In fact, here, look, we can do a scientific test. I have my flashlight right here, so if we shine this through here, ta-da! Look at that, straight through, tons of space. This one...
not so much.
Even the fact that there's this, like, little, whatever that is in the middle there, little diverter that this one doesn't have, yeah, I mean, that is a lot of extra airflow. And so this is going to mostly help with throttle response?
Transient throttle response. So when you're cruising, you're flowing air straight through. But think of this like a capacitor in a way, like an electronic capacitor, right? In a stereo. Those, you know, big giant stereos, when that bass hits, the capacitors unload, right? And give the amplifiers enough to power the speakers during a big bass note. Think of this the same way.
If you thought that he couldn't get any more technical talking about cars, now he's going to baffle you with electronics nerdiness. To explain an already difficult concept to understand, he's going to give you an even more difficult concept to understand. Bear with us, guys.
When you need it, the cold air is there, right? It's...
I love it. So while Rob removes fuel lines and does not sexy stuff, let's go and look at some sexy stuff. We're going to do a little walk around tour of the Banks facility and see exactly how they got to be the best in the biz.
You see the awning over here? We have those two buildings, and we have these two buildings, and we have these two buildings, and you see the ladder back there, we have those buildings, and then this is Banks Tech over here where we do all the defense work. So we have the whole street for the most part.
Defense work?
Defense work, yes. We're the exclusive engine supplier for the Army's Joint Light Tactical Vehicle. All JLTVs have a Banks D866T turbo diesel engine in them. So if you know someone in Defense, Army, Navy, Marines, and they have a JLTV on campus, that has a Banks engine in it. So this is a supercharged 6.6 liter Duramax.
The shape of that cutout.
Oh, this right here? Oh yeah, that's a wiener. I mean, there's no question.
Thank you, that was the response I was looking for. Yeah. What's the motor? Now you can be serious.
Yeah, that's a supercharged 6.6 liter Duramax. It's a 2023 Duramax engine in there with a 3.8 liter Whipple supercharger and nitrous.
Oh my goodness.
Over 1,000 horsepower. So you've got the nitrous bottles back here, carbon fiber drive shaft, strange forward 9-inch rear end. Obviously it's on bags.
Oh my
It's on the ground.
Hey, he's got my tip.
Get a look at the headers.
They are a thing of beauty. Equal length.
Equal length. And then look at the collector.
Right there. Get in there. Oh yeah, there you go. Wow, that's gorgeous.
Look how the steering linkage goes right
Oh
through
man.
them. This thing sounds so wicked. You've never heard anything like this. This sounds like a straight piped big block V8 because the Duramax is a V8. So not right now, unfortunately.
Are
no.
you
No.
teasers like
There's,
that?
No, there's like
Oh,
there's
come
do
on,
not
Jet.
start panels everywhere.
I've met girls like you.
They're billet 22-inch wheels that were 505-pound blocks of billet with fins to extract the hot air out of the engine bay.
Really?
Yeah.
And whose truck is this? Is this your truck?
Originally, it was mine. I have a podcast called the Truck Show Podcast. We're the #1 truck enthusiast podcast, and I bought this off a listener, bone stock for $1. He had to get rid of it. His wife's like, my wife won't let me keep this piece of crap in the backyard, so I bought it. Had a running, driving Mr. Goodwrench 350, and this I brought it over to Banks, and after 2 years, we had so much work into it, I gave the pink slip to Gail, and now it's a Banks-owned vehicle. But this was at the SEMA show in Las Vegas twice in the AMSOIL booth.
All right, I'll let you off. It does say do not operate.
See right there, do not operate.
Yeah, okay.
It still needs some programming. The Motec needs a little fine tuning, but we're getting there.
So the motors that you're putting in the military vehicles, the Banks engines, are they based on a manufacturer motor or are they your own unique motor?
Our engines are built for us at DMAX in Moraine, Ohio. And then they come to us for final assembly and dyno test, which is the noise you're hearing out there. Each engine, when after they're done with final assembly and test, they get a 22-minute dyno test, signed off, one man, one engine, and they go to Oshkosh, Wisconsin and get dropped into the JLTV. What are the differences? Oh, the mid-pan, the lower oil pan, the fluid damper, the tuning, the ECM is ours, over 100 parts that are ours on that engine. We are basically General Motors' largest client outside of themselves. They're not necessarily more reliable, but they are designed to be more maintenance-free.
Yeah.
Those emissions pieces aren't put on the engine. They come to us without them. So we're not deleting engines. We're not taking parts off the engine. And those engines are spec'd that way by the U.S. Army. Having those pieces of equipment on those engines could put the service personnel in harm's way. You know, you don't want a DPF clogging or those types of things. So they've eliminated them. And if the Army said, we want all the emissions equipment on them, that's how we would build them. No big deal. We can't speak to the power level because that's classified. But I will say it's not big horsepower. They're made for endurance. That's our claim to fame. Endurance. Our engines outlast any other. That's how we got the contracts.
So this machine behind me is the reason why I cannot import my 1.9 TDI race engine that has been sat in my mum's garage on a pallet for the last 8 years. Why I can't import it into America because of the whole Volkswagen Dieselgate emission scandal. So this is the snitch. This is what did it.
This machine sniffs out what's coming out of the tailpipe. Yes, a very similar machine to this caught Volkswagen cheating. And we have our own, so we know that we can pass emissions tests. We hear every once in a while like, oh, Banks is in bed with the EPA because they make all the clean diesel stuff. Like, no, if we don't make the clean diesel stuff, we get popped, just like everybody else. So we spend a lot of money to make sure, and plus we want to sell in California. And there's a lot of distributors that won't sell our parts unless we have a CARB EO, that little silver sticker that says it passes emissions. So that's why we do it. This is an engine dyno cell. What happens is we wheel an engine right here, it docks, and instead of the drive shaft going to the rear wheels, it goes to this brake back here. This is the dyno, the load cell. And we can run the engine to the point where it's going to stall. We can run it for hours on end. We can do it's completely programmable. You can test an engine any way you can imagine in here. And we have everything censored up. So I know every flow, temp, pressure, everything from intake, exhaust, water flow through the engine, everything is censored, everything is monitored and data logged.
I have never seen so many company logos as I've seen around here.
Oh, so
everywhere I look,
that's funny.
I see a Banks logo. I feel like I'm being indoctrinated into the cult of Banks, and it's working.
BPSI, Banks per square inch. All of this electrical equipment that you're seeing here, Adam, is because we recently built a hybrid Humvee, a diesel hybrid Humvee for the U.S. Army, and they're testing it right now at the Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland. And so it is a 3-liter EcoDiesel engine in front of a motor generator unit, in front of an 8-speed transmission. It can run on the engine, on the motor generator, or both.
Huh. And what's the advantage of having that electric generator in there?
So you can run silently. You can be scouting, enemies silently, or you can use it to offload power. You can power your campsite, or you don't have any range anxiety because you still have a diesel engine with fuel. So it's the best of both worlds. You've seen chassis dynos before, so that's nothing new here. This is where you measure the horsepower and the torque. We're loading 2,000 pounds of sand into the bed of the truck to keep the rear wheels planted so there's no slip. You don't get an accurate reading if the tires are slipping. And when you're talking really high horsepower, high torque, you could, in a lot of knobby tire, you could have some slip. So we really want to get that planted. Yeah. On the back wall over here, you'll see 2 fans. These fans blow down underground and that cool air comes up through the rollers. It cools both the rollers, the brake inside here, and it cools the tires themselves. Back in the day, before we had the fan, we would chunk the tires and would throw rubber at a Coke machine that was on the back wall, like pit at the Coke machine. So we got the squirrel cage fans and now everything is cool and happy. So this Banks wind machine has kind of a funny story. This is many years back in like the late 80s, I think, early 90s. Gail was in Texas and he was driving down the highway. He saw a car wash that had been torn down. And these fans, these are car wash fans. They were sitting in the mud.
Oh, okay.
There was like a foreman of a construction site there. The guys said, take them, we're gonna trash them. So he brought them back here. We completely refurbed these fans, built this apparatus here. So it's a variable, the snout can narrow down or widen.
Yep.
It's all on height adjustable legs. So we wheel this right in front of a car or a truck and it simulates 60 miles an hour of airspeed. Because when you dyno test a car, you should not have the hood open because you can't drive down the highway with the hood open.
Yeah, it's not real world conditions.
So, but every dyno video you've ever seen, the dude's got the hood up.
Right.
I can't drive down the 405 freeway through LA with the hood up. So by keeping the hood closed and blowing 60 miles an hour of air through the grill, just like you'd have on the road, we can simulate road conditions, and it's repeatable. I can do a test Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If it's all 74 degrees in Southern California, which it is often, so then all the tests are identical.
So I made a joke earlier about the fact that there are Banks logos on everything everywhere. Like this guy's underpants has got them on, like there's just, wherever you look, there's Banks logo. So there is a see-through window that goes on the top of the Super Scoop. And the idea, I guess, is so that you can see the air filter and check that it's not too dirty. And there's a little sneak peek window. Yes. So I jokingly said, oh, is there a logo on that too? Yep, of course, a massive one. Alrighty guys, we're done. The truck is now, come look at this. The truck is now officially a Banks Ram. You can only get that sticker if you get the full suite, which apparently I have everything now,
You have everything we make for the 2019 to 2020. Oh,
it's been a long day.
yes, you have everything for the Ram 6.7 liter Cummins turbo diesel.
So if you want some goodies, you know who to come to. Everything is made in America. Everything is engineered like you wouldn't believe. It's been so cool to like get a look around and see what goes into this. And
Thank you
also,
for coming.
I had no idea just how much of an empire this was. I mean,
know what
you
sucks?
own this block.
No, it sucks. If we had that building right there, then we would own more than 50% of the street. We could gate it over here and call it Gale Banks Way. We just need one more building.
Who is that?
They sell umbrellas.
Don't buy umbrellas from that company, ever. Or buy them all. Buy so many that they can't produce enough, and then you guys can buy them and then move them somewhere else. And
I don't know if that math works.
Gale Banks umbrellas. Well, look, I am going to get off, but thank you so much.
All right.
That was an absolute pleasure, and yeah, I can't wait to test this thing out. I'm going to give you guys my first review in just a second.
And by the way, thanks for the present. I took this out. I saw this under the dashboard and ripped this sucker out.
Alrighty, cool. Well, let's get out there and let me give you the first impressions on my new Banks Ram.
So it's actually been a couple of weeks since we installed the goodies on the truck, but by the time I left, there was so much traffic on the way home that I couldn't even get to do a full power run until it had already gotten dark. So I figured I'd live with it for a few weeks and really get an understanding so that I could give you my thoughts after some proper seat time. Now, the best way to describe the way that the truck drives after we installed all the mods is that it has been awoken, or awakened, however you say it. Nothing we did promised big horsepower gains, but my butt dyno does tell me we have unlocked some more torque. The truck just seems to pull harder from lower and for longer, which I'm assuming just comes from the lack of restriction in the intake system. It goes without saying that I am so much more comfortable as well, knowing that that ridiculous grid heater issue is now gone and I don't have to worry about it grenading my engine to the tune of $20,000. But honestly, even if there wasn't an issue, now that I've felt how the truck drives with the Monster Ram elbow and cold air intake, I'd install them again in a heartbeat. The new air filter allows that turbo whistle to come into the cab a little bit, which I do like. It's not intrusive, but when you get on it, you can hear that turbo spool up. It's pretty cool. The new exhaust didn't really change how the truck sounds, which is to be expected given that there is so much emissions equipment upstream of it, and that's totally fine by me. Honestly, I didn't want the truck to be any louder because this is my daily driver. It did take me a while to get used to the look of the big exhaust tip, but now I definitely prefer it over that stock scaffolding pole that they just slung behind the rear tire. The pedal monster does a great job of sharpening up the throttle response as well, which goes a long way towards making the truck feel faster, even if on paper it makes the same power. Less pedal gets more go than stock, and I actually settled on a medium setting, which is the perfect balance between throttle response and also drivability. And one of the other things I've noticed is that the gear shifts are so much smoother than with the pedal commander, especially when I quickly let off the throttle right before the truck was about to shift. So for example, if you're accelerating and then somebody suddenly moves into your lane and you have to let off the accelerator right as the truck was about to shift, previously it would have jolted when it shifted, but now it really doesn't do that anymore, and it feels like the truck shifts way more seamlessly. Now, the iDash display is one of the things that I love the most, and I use it all the time. There are so many options that you can choose from, and honestly, it's kind of intimidating in the beginning because there are just so many things that you can select. So after I spent some time figuring it out, I've now opted to have all of my mission critical information on one screen that I can just glance at and see my most relevant temperatures, pressures, and levels. Then if I do want to dig deeper into other values, then I can look those up as needed. Now, it's great being able to read the fault codes as well, and it was super handy when I was setting up my pedal monster just to use the interface to get that dialed in. That rear diff cover sure does look sexy, but honestly, I haven't towed anything since I've had it installed, so I don't know how much cooler the diff oil really is, but it definitely is peace of mind knowing that I have that insurance policy for the next time that I do decide that I want to tow something. So overall, yeah, I am incredibly impressed with how much better the Banks upgrades have made the truck drive. Like I said, don't expect it to feel like you've tuned your truck, but do expect it to feel like this is how RAM should have built it from the factory. In full disclosure, Banks did supply the parts for this video. However, I was and am still under zero obligation to tell you anything but the God's honest truth about them. And before I work with any brand, I always make it crystal clear that I will never falsely advertise them just because they're providing products or even paying me for a review. Prime example of that was those awful Subnado like jetpack thingies that broke every time I tried to use them. They paid me to feature their product, and I told you what a pile of shit they were.
Of course this one's not working. Piece of shit. So, honest review, this one is the second unit I've had that's got electrical issues. That's got full power, so we're just gonna rock this one.
So just know my thoughts and opinions would be exactly the same had I paid full MSRP for the upgrades we did to the truck. It's working with brands like Banks that allow me to continue to do what I do here on YouTube, so please do go and support those that support me, and trust me that I will always only be 100% honest with you whenever I recommend anything, and I would never put anything on my truck that I didn't trust in my life, or Diesel's life for that matter. So to summarize, if you have a Ram with the 6.7 litre Cummins, save yourself 20 grand and go and check your nuts immediately. Right away, go check them. Then whether they're loose or not, I wholeheartedly recommend that you check out these upgrades from Banks because they are well worth doing in my opinion. Now I did manage to get some coupons from Banks, so for the first 25 people that use my code SWORDS, you are gonna get 15% off your entire order when you apply that code at checkout, and once they are gone, they are gone. So if you're looking for some goodies, go shop now because they are gonna go fast. And that's it for today, guys. We are finally back to our regularly scheduled programming now that I'm settled in my new place. So I'll be dropping a new episode every Saturday morning for your pleasure from now on. So hit that subscribe button, follow me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and most importantly, remember, until next time, don't do anything I wouldn't do. See ya.